Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. You can follow me there. And today, I want to talk about roster moves, as well as some notable betting lines and props for the 49ers this year, and what you should be betting on if that's the kind of thing that you enjoy. And of course, stick around until later in the show because we've got an update on the Jawan Jennings situation, and it's not a great one. But before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. Speaking of, I want to say thank you so much. We hit over 200 subscribers over the weekend. The growth on this channel has been great so far, and it's all thanks to you guys. My goal is 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So if you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe. Or if you already have, go ahead and send this to a friend who you think might enjoy my videos. Now, for real, let's get into it. Now, super quick, over the weekend, the Niners officially brought back defensive tackle Evan Anderson to the practice squad, releasing edge rusher William Bradley King, and they signed offensive tackle Killian Zierer to fill the International Pathway Program slot. Evan Anderson is a guy that we've been focused on all summer long, and now he is officially the 16th member of the practice squad. Anderson and Sebastian Valdez, on the practice squad give this team way more depth at defensive tackle than we've honestly had in kind of a long time. Now, the starting unit is way worse than it usually is, but the depth is honestly really, really good. We've got two promising draft picks in Alfred Collins and CJ West, another talented young guy in Jordan Jefferson, and both Anderson and Valdez on the practice squad. I'm really impressed with how the 49ers have addressed the depth at this position this offseason. And if any of those guys develop into good starters, we have a potentially scary unit going forward because all those guys are pretty young. It is a little bit sad to lose William Bradley King. I thought he played well enough to earn a spot on the practice squad, but he was never really a candidate to be elevated to the game day roster, whereas the other edge rusher on the squad, Trevis Gipson, absolutely is. And of course, our newest addition is Killian Zierer, a German offensive tackle who's big, 6'7", 312 pounds. He spent time with the Texans, Browns, and Falcons in his career so far. And this move is being made because the previous player filling that IPP slot, Isaac Alarcon, was suspended for using performance enhancers. Not great. And if Zierer can really impress in practice, I think that Alarcon's probably done with the Niners. Steph Sanchez actually did an interview with Zierer when he was coming out of Auburn and entering the NFL. Definitely go ahead and check that out on the Steph 49K YouTube channel if you're interested. A shout out to Steph. She makes great Niners content throughout the year, and I use her Pro Day tracker every single spring come draft season. Now, on to our next topic here. Sports betting has absolutely taken over the country and the NFL. Sportsbooks estimate that roughly $38 billion will be bet on NFL games this year. That is a massive and at times very lucrative industry. So if you're thinking about betting on the 49ers this year, I'm here to give you some intel and some knowledge to inform your decisions and hopefully make you some cash this season. And even if you're not much of a gambler, Vegas odds are often a pretty interesting way to observe who the public and the sports books think are going to win a lot of games this year. And of course, I want to urge anyone watching this video to bet responsibly, bet carefully, and as a reminder, sometimes the best bets are the ones that you don't make. So let's start with these season-long bets. First, the 49ers are plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl. That sounds like a lot, but that puts the Niners top 10 in the league in Super Bowl odds and top 5 in the NFC. Likewise, they are plus 950 to win the NFC Championship game, behind only the Eagles, Packers, Lions, and Commanders. Now, I don't think I'd bet on the Niners to win the Super Bowl. It's not really my style. I'm a little too superstitious for that. But winning the NFC Championship game would still get you some decent money. And these Kyle Shanahan teams have shown the ability to do that, as opposed to the ability to win the Super Bowl. Now, if you want to bet on something a little bit more reasonable than that, the Niners are plus 155 to win the NFC West, which is the best odds in the division. So, according to the Vegas sportsbooks, the 49ers are the betting favorites to win the NFC West. Now, I think that's not exactly fair. I think the Rams are probably the better team right now, and I'd probably go with them to win the division. But If you like the Niners to win this division, plus 155 is a pretty good line as well. Seems like Vegas is definitely respecting the team despite a 6-win season last year. And out of all those bets I just talked about, I think my favorite value is plus 950 on the 49ers winning the NFC Championship game. Because, I mean, when you think about it, when this team gets hot, they get really hot. And it's far from a guarantee, of course, that they even make the playoffs. But the 49ers have way more playoff experience than the Packers, Lions, and Commanders, all of whom are above them in those betting odds. Now, if the Niners can make it to the postseason, I like their chances as much as pretty much anybody else in the NFC. Now, let's talk about some individual stats. One of my favorite bets on the entire team this year is an absolute heat check, okay? This is some real sicko behavior. This is not your average bet. But if you're feeling crazy and you want to bet on George Kittle to break the receiving yards record for tight ends, which is roughly 1,400 yards, the odds are great, plus 1,800. Now, I think that there's a non-zero chance that this year ends up kind of like 2018 was, if you guys remember that season. Not one, but two tight ends broke the record that year. Both George Kittle and Travis Kelce broke the previous record for tight end yards in a season. And I think this could be kind of a repeat of that year. I think Brock Bowers, now with an upgrade at quarterback, has a real shot to go over 1,400 yards. And Kittle's connection and chemistry with Purdy is the best on the entire team. With this infusion of youth on defense, I think the Niners will need to lean on their offense a bit to win games this year, especially early on. And with these massive wide receiver questions, this passing attack could very well run through George Kittle. I think 1,400 yards and the record is absolutely within reach for Kittle this year, and plus 1,800. I mean, that's insanely good value. Now, let's tone it back a little bit. Let's do something a little less crazy. Christian McCaffrey is plus 110 to have over 1,000 rushing yards this year. Now, these odds are definitely modest compared to the last bet we talked about, but you're not betting on the player in this case, or even the context of the situation like you are with Kittle. You're betting on health, right? Every time CMC has started over 11 games in a season, he's rushed for over 1,000 yards. Every single time. Now, the question is, will he start 11 games this year? If you're feeling lucky about that question, then any sort of plus odds is great value for what is pretty much a near statistical guarantee. Now, I've got one more individual season-long bet, and this one is really a near guarantee. If you're a bettor who likes to find money in the margins and to not lose as much as you like to win money, I've got a bet for you. Brock Purdy is minus 900 to pass for over 3,500 yards this year. Now, he's done that in both of his full seasons as a starter, yes, including last year. This is a very low bar for a guy like Brock, and it really reflects in the odds. I mean, minus 900 is nearly guaranteed. For instance, if you put a $5 bet on Purdy to reach that yards threshold, you win a grand total of 56 cents. So if you're feeling real crazy and you want to make some money in the margins, that might be the bet for you. Now, how about we move into the week one odds? A little bit more immediate, right? Betting on a whole season of games and stats is kind of daunting and overwhelming at times, but what about just one on Sunday? Let's take a look at my favorite bets for week one against the Seahawks. Now, right off the bat, I look at the spread. The 49ers are favored by 2.5 points on the road. And I like the Niners to cover the spread this week, I should say. I think they get a win against this new-look Seattle team. That's my prediction. And I think with the addition of Brian Robinson, they'll be able to run the ball in the second half and hold on to the lead, unlike they were at times last year with a more inexperienced rushing attack. Now, I think that the Niners win by at least a field goal, and you can make a cool $9 on a $10 bet if you bet the 49ers to cover. That's one I do feel pretty good about. Another one I'm keeping my eye on is the anytime touchdown scorers. I'm a sucker for anytime touchdown scorers, and that doesn't change here. I think the best value is George Kittle. Seattle has good safeties for sure, but Julian Love and Nick Emanwari are just still not good enough to cover George Kittle. In Kittle's last 5 games against the Seahawks, he's scored 7 touchdowns. That's about as good as you can get. He's a monster. The Seahawks have struggled to cover him forever in the red zone, and Kittle's plus 145 to score a touchdown in this game. That just feels like a really good bet to me. I also kind of like Jackson Smith and Jigba to score a touchdown at plus 155. Now, we know that's not fun to hear as Niners fans, but I really doubt that this game's going to be a shutout. And if Seattle keeps playing JSN in the slot, then he'll be matching up with either Upton Stout, who's a rookie, or Chase Lucas, who has not played very much regular season football in his career. And all due respect to both those guys, I mean, they're both demons, but JSN is the best player on the Seahawks offense, and I expect him to show that on Sunday. Now, a couple of deeper cuts in the anytime touchdown category that I like are Brian Robinson Jr. at plus 380 and Elijah Arroyo at plus 600. Now, B-Rob is a physical bruiser, right? Big back, very tough, hard to bring down. And if the 49ers end up at the 2 or 3 yard line, I could absolutely see them trusting Brian Robinson over CMC with a goal line carry. He's really good in those spots, too. He's one of the best rushers in the entire NFL on third and shorts. We could easily see his first touchdown as a Niner in this game. And as for the rookie tight end for Seattle, Elijah Arroyo, this is more situational. The Seahawks run the same offense that the Niners do now that they brought in former 49ers coach Clint Kubiak. Arroyo's a really talented guy. And what does the 49ers offense do that really suits Arroyo's skill set? They attack the middle of the field and they put the linebackers in conflict. Now, Arroyo, like I said, has really, really nice skills. He's a great route runner and a great pass catcher. And I think with his athleticism and in this scheme, he could certainly get open in the red zone or in the end zone, especially if he's matched up with, someone like Luke Gifford or Marquise Siegel or Jair Brown. None of those guys exactly known for their coverage, especially against sort of a matchup nightmare type guy in Elijah Arroyo. So watch out for number 18. I think he could be a potential problem for us in the future. And now I've got one more week one bet. Zach Charbonnet's rushing yards line. It's set at 28.5 right now. And I'm hammering the under at minus 110. This is a bit of a risky one because Charbonnet could certainly rip off a 30-yard carry against this young defense, right? But last year, Charbonnet didn't even have 23 yards total against the 49ers in 2 games combined. I think Kenneth Walker is a much more frightening back, and if the 2024 Niners could bottle up Charbonnet, then I definitely think the 2025 Niners can. So those are some bets that I really like for the 49ers season and for their week 1 matchup. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite value is and if you've got any sneaky bets that you're thinking about placing this year. Now, for our final segment, we've got a rumor here. There was a rumor floating around over the weekend that Jauan Jennings and his agent have been asking for over $20 million per year on his next contract. Now, assuming that his demands are somewhere between $20 and $25 million per year, that would put Jauan's contract between Devontae Smith and Mike Evans. Other receivers in that range currently include Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, and Stephon Diggs. I love Jauan Jennings, and it's sad to see the amount of hate he's gotten online recently as a result of this rumor, but that is way too much money for him, man. I mean, let's play a game. I want you, the viewer, to guess how many 100-yard games that Jauan Jennings has had in his NFL career. Just guess. Leave a comment down below, actually, with your guess. Okay, now that you've done that, I'll tell you. The answer is 1. Jauan has only broken 100 yards once in his entire career, and it was that monster game against the Rams last year. I mean, that game was one of the best by a receiver all year, for sure. 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was magical. But you can't pay $20 million for a guy that is rarely, if ever, going to go over 100 yards. You just can't do it, especially if he's 29 with a calf injury and hasn't practiced in over a month. I think a much more fair contract for Jauan would end up somewhere around 12 to 15 million per year. I think that's fair. That's right in between Cooper Kupp and Darius Slayton. Also in this tier, you've got Khalil Shakir, Darnell Mooney, and Rashad Bateman. They're all productive, useful wide receiver 2s on their team. And Jennings is certainly worth a contract of this size, especially for a team like the 49ers that can use his run blocking really efficiently. But 25 or even 20 million, it's frankly ridiculous. And there's also the question of leverage, right? Who in the NFL is giving Jawan the type of contract that he's asking for, especially with his injury? It's crazy to say this coming off of his performance last year, but if the 49ers trade Jawan, they would be selling low. He's hurt and he's old. He is not going to get you value that matches his performance last year in a trade. He's not. So the 49ers shouldn't trade him right now. You don't want to sell low on your assets. That makes no sense. But they also shouldn't pay Jennings what he's asking for because that's way too much money. That would be a bad contract. So the best course of action for the Niners is to just make him play on his current deal and, talk about maybe an extension next offseason. And if Jawan wants that $20 million deal, he needs to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. Teams are cautious in the NFL, and no one wants to pay a guy who's holding out. If Jawan misses regular season games because of the calf or because of the contract, he's only costing himself money in the present and in the future. So it is truly in everyone's best interest for Jawan to just get out there and play well. We'll see if he does play week one. I've kind of been thinking about it like he won't, but there's not much basis for that. Lynch and Shanahan said that they're hoping he will be ready, but either way, it'll certainly be a big storyline to watch for the 49ers this year. Do you think that Jawan Jennings will play week one against Seattle? Do you think the Niners will sign him to a new contract? Do you think he'll be traded? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm Brady Grustas at Grustas Brady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.